Richard Thomas Writing Channel, episode 15. Who's buried in Grant's tomb? Not me. I've changed so much in this past year since we came to Nashville. And that really uh, affects my writing or affects my reading of my writing. The section that we're going through right now of the writing of September 2023, where I'm tracking my life with Grant's, there are many similarities. One similarity is not the ending. So he ends up in Grant's tomb. So we're similar in the beginning. He was a military officer. That's how he started out in life. I was an improviser and a performer. He was very talented. I was very talented. Uh, he was naive and he got kind of drummed out based on the ignorance and malice of other people. That happened to me. Then he was humiliated. He was selling wood in the streets, which was really quite a low level thing to be doing for somebody with his background. And I sold maintenance agreements on lawnmowers for Sears for $6.50 an hour, and he was really broken down like that. And then he got himself basically to a level where at least he had a job. It still wasn't glorious. It wasn't anything of high status, but it was consistent work. And in his case, he was a clerk in his father's store. Um, and I got to a point where, with the inside sales, uh, that's what I was doing. And then he got his big break, the Civil War, and there was a need for people with military backgrounds, and he rose very quickly because of his talent. And he had a great benefactor in Abraham Lincoln. Here's where our stories veer a little bit. I never had an Abraham Lincoln pluck me out of obscurity. I kind of did it myself. I resolved to do it. So at the age of 50, I sat for the bar exam for the first time and I passed it. And I became uh, a lawyer and then a college professor, which is not exactly uh, being the lead general for the Union Army in the Civil War. But I I came to a position of some respect, a little bit, and Um, but then he became the great general, the the conqueror of Robert E. Lee, uh, the warrior savior of the Union. I mean, Lincoln and Grant, I mean, they saved what America was. They did something really big. Uh, I believe I did something really big, but not recognized in that way with my writing and my teaching. Uh, my teaching was quite good, I think. So the parallel's sort of still there, but we're off the track of like getting this social imprimatur of greatness. In some ways, um, at this point, I became more like Napoleon, who, when he became the emperor, uh, he grabbed the crown out of the Pope's hands and he put it on his own head. So I I determined I was far away. It wasn't my nature to get the adulation of the crowd or to be a leader of the crowd. I mean, this is part of the difference. I mean, this is where there's a big difference. Grant was a man of action, and I'm a man of reflection. So, the hero or the sage, and which I'm not making a claim to wisdom, but it's my work to work on being wise. You know, so that was the difference. Now, at the turn of the 19th into the 20th century, uh, Grant was considered one of the great uh, leaders of American history. I mean, it was about, I don't know, 15 or 20 years later when Mount Rushmore came along. But if there was a Mount Rushmore uh, in like 1900 or something, Grant would be on it. Okay, I mean, he was considered a savior of the Union, held in very high regard. And then what happened is as the conservative forces behind the Confederacy, which are still with us today, as they became more ascendant, he was criticized. He was a drunk. He was naive. His administration had a lot of scandals, although he personally wasn't involved with them. So his estimation uh, in terms of generally history uh, was diminished quite a bit. By the time I came along, and I was in elementary and junior high school in the 1960s, he was really ranked as one of our worst presidents. So when he died, he was top of the list. That's why the very imposing Grant's tomb in New York City was built. So he got the treatment of he was recognized as a great man. And then he wasn't. And I think there's kind of a message in that about what the nature of recognition is, that type of recognition, that type success and recognition, and even in a more minor key than being uh, a famous general and a president of the United States. I mean, even the recognition that we all have in one way or another in our lives for whatever it is that we do. It it's really more of a reflection of the people who are doing the recognizing than it is of the person themselves. So uh, I've changed in terms of my understanding of myself a lot in this past year doing these videos. I mean, the videos is I'm assessing the writing, and it's also interesting to assess myself. That's one of the reasons why I like talking through this instead of writing it down. And I really changed. I think when I wrote the comparison to Grant just a year ago, I kind of I wouldn't admit it because it would sound crass to me or whatever, but I kind of wanted something like Grant's tomb. I wanted that recognition. I wanted to be known and appreciated and recognized for for my best qualities. I uh, I don't care about that anymore. I really don't know what happened because it didn't happen through reflection. It just kind of happened. I think this relates back to the first of this series of videos where I was talking about how I wasn't interested in submitting for publication. I just I'm not interested in that jockeying for position in in some sort of social hierarchy. And I think that's one of the things that made me naive when I was naive to malicious people and got drummed out of working in improvisational theater and film and television and all that, which I'm so happy is that was the path uh, that occurred because I don't want to do that, and I really don't want to be like them. Um, and there are varying degrees of whether they're good people or not. Some of them are horrible people, and some of them are good but mediocre people. And I don't consider the work that they do to be of much value. And that's a similarity to Grant because in the when he was a young officer in the Mexican American War, I mean, he was smarter than the generals because because he was more talented. So that was the experience, but he basically got drummed out. I think there was another thing too that drummed him out. Actually, I think I actually give myself higher marks than Grant on this. I don't think he was too crazy about the Mexican American War. The Mexican American War was not a good war. It was a war of aggression. And there was a karma to it because it expanded U.S. territory, and that hastened the Civil War. I don't believe it. I always forget this light. Let's see here. Here we go. See, I forgot it. That's we try. So I'm not buried in Grant's tomb. The and there's a great freedom in that, and I'm in no hurry either. I'm I'm just quietly working on my writing. Now, if a Lincoln would pluck me out of obscurity and put me in a more uh, prominent role, uh, I would I would do it. But I'm not counting on it, and if it happens, great. But I really don't care, and that's a big difference than from September in 2023. I thought there was going to be some sort of a payoff, and the actual belief in that payoff was a limitation on my writing. The, now I'm in a position of uh, of pure art. I mean, I'm not saying it's good art, but I mean, I don't know. That's one of the things that I'm doing. I'm looking at this writing. I'm trying to assess it and what I'm doing. I think perhaps Grant got to that point when he wrote his autobiography, which he never would have done, but he was dying and he had made some bad business deals, and he wanted to leave money to his that his wife was taken care of, and so that actually became an opportunity for him. So he said, "Okay." So they said, "Write a memoir." So he wrote an autobiography, and it was a highly regarded book, and so you never know, you never know. But, in those years when Grant was, criticized as being, a bad president and, a good general, bad president, uh, drunk and susceptible to, let corrupt people run around. He was an interesting drunk. He was drunk in the times of his life when he was lonely. When he was like in military service, when he was separated from his wife or whatever. I think I think he grew past that and probably even closer to his wife, so that he never felt that kind of loneliness. Uh, so the thing about being susceptible to corrupt, yeah, he was naive. He was naive about he was a person of his time, and this is where I get better marks than Grant again. I mean, I'm on to the business bullshit. I'm on to the uh, kissing the rich ass and scoring myself by what they think of me because I don't think much of them, and I think he did. Okay, so yeah, that was a fault, but those faults are nothing compared to the tremendous sense of justice that he had. I mean, he became president in 1868, and for 8 years, he was as progressive as not until even it was like like Brown, not until Brown versus the Board of Education in the 50s and the Civil Rights Act, and even then, there was a lot of growing and that we had to do. He was at a spot that we didn't even look at for 100 years after the Civil War, and then uh, it took another 50 or 60 years to even get to the place that half of this country is at now. He was he was great on the question of race. He was great on the question of equality and of people's rights, and fierce about it. He formed the FBI to go after the Ku Klux Klan, for example. I mean, that's one thing that he did, and he was. I think part of it was because he knew how much sacrifice went into the Civil War. He didn't want to piss it away by being manipulated by at the time Southern leaders who wanted to, you know, basically win the war, even though they lost the war. So for those 8 years, it was the radical Republican agenda of equality and opportunity. And to me, that's his greatness. I mean, he ran for he ran for uh, a third time. He was going for a third administration, but he had lost a lot of power because of the scandals and everything. and in 1876. And then in 1876, in a brokered deal, because there was a close election, uh, the Republican Party ended Reconstruction, and in order to get the White House, which was really a cheap deal. And then came Jim Crow and all the rest, and everything that happened from 1876 until there started to be a pushback, uh, maybe in the 1940s, a trickle of a pushback, and then what happened in the second half of the 20th century, where this country uh, was trying to form a better and more perfect union. And to me, that's his greatness, his sense of justice. Uh, so when people still appreciated that sense, they built Grant's tomb. when they didn't, when they didn't want justice, uh, they made him at the very bottom of the list of presidents when I showed up in grade school. You know, they tarred him as a failure, which is one thing about his and my personality type. There are some people that, if you go against the grain of what is unjust, if you go against the grain of unjust perception, that is one thing that they'll really try to do. They'll try to say that you're a failure. And they say you're a failure because basically, who do they want to succeed to get to the top of the hierarchy? They want people to be people of ability, and I'm a person of ability, but they also want you to believe in their bullshit. They want that ability to serve what they believe in, which is again, bringing the current election, the close to half the country that, in the polls at least, if that's an indication, are supporting Trump. People that willingly accept all kinds of indignity and cruelty and inequality. So there were always signs in me that I didn't care about being buried in Grant's tomb. When I was doing stand-up comedy at the West Bank in the 80s, I would tell the audience, I don't care if you laugh or not. I mean, what do you know? Reagan is president, and Laverne and Shirley is the number one TV show in the country. So I always kind of had this, but part of the reason why I write anyway is and now it's good because I've been doing it for a lot of years, and I'm old and all that, but it cuts through the fog. There's a fog of nonsense about what life is all about. Okay, let me go back and start reading this, having it framed in this, like, this awareness that I'm not buried in Grant's tomb. Let's see here. I'll just pick up where I left off. Chernow makes clear early that one of his great objectives is to defend his subject with his book. I have the same goal for my book. Yeah, I think that goal has changed a little bit. A lot of it, a lot of my writing was defending myself. Um, now I think I'm just interested in understanding what is, understanding what happened. Um, and you know, and a lot of it is the same result because it ends up being a defense of myself. But that's not my motivation anymore because frankly, anybody can think whatever they want to think about me. I'm not running for office, although I admire people who do. Uh, Kamala Harris was sensational in the debate last night. It's September 11th today, 2024. The debate was September 10th, 2024. She destroyed Trump. She was she was incredible, and anybody who sees that, and really anybody that didn't look at it, really isn't responsible as an American. But anybody who sees that, I don't see how if you choose Trump, I don't know. Then there's something seriously wrong with the country. There's no way that anybody could this malicious, deluded, uh, self-serving, violent, crass. There's no. I mean, if you choose that over Kamala Harris, I don't know. There's something wrong with you, and there's definitely something wrong with a lot of people in this country. I mean that's I don't know how to come to a different conclusion. It's it doesn't make any sense. And when you hear them talk about, well, one issue or another that they care about, they never make any sense. They never make any sense. Talk about not having a sense of justice. I mean, I guess uh, it's the half of the country that thinks Grant was a drunk that was manipulated by shrewder people and that sees none of the artistry and morality uh, in his life. Grant's critics of his military and his political careers are primarily engaged in justifying themselves. This is my conclusion. Chernow's analysis is more nuanced, I imagine, but I'll be surprised if he doesn't fundamentally agree. Yeah, if somebody's for Trump, um, there's something wrong with him. Grant, like Thomas, did not set out to be a revolutionary, but he was revolutionary by nature. As a general, he reinvented warfare and thereby created modern warfare. As a politician, he led America's first great experiment in democracy, equality, and civil rights. As a memoirist, he fashioned a great man's recollections into a literary work of art. He did all these works of vision and genius in spite of his humble beginnings, and with a modest, unassuming, and to most, at least initially, unimpressive bearing. I'm really fine with these paragraphs and sentences coming out of this grant project here. I've been underestimated, at least initially, and later reviled by reactionaries everywhere I've ever gone. Every place is different because I've been there. It's my belief that Grant always knew he had greatness about him. no matter how often he was frustrated by obstructions, delay, and failure. I know I have. I suspect this deep seated confidence is a matter of natural law. I'm also certain Grant didn't always look like he knew. He never doubted himself. It was harder to have faith in other people. They surprised him with their meanness and selfishness. Then they turned around and laughed at him because it never occurred to him to be as lousy as they were, and was slow to recognize when they took advantage of him. Some people are too good for the world, but they help the world anyway. Thank God. Grant was a failure. The greatest people always fail. He wasn't a failure for the drinking or the corrupt associates. He was a failure because he was trying to make a just America and a just world. He was a failure because he was trying to make our highest ideals and values real. In that sense, every good person fails. But it's better to have that kind of failure than it is to succeed. Because to succeed is to fail. Because you succeed at what? At what? How much money is in your wallet? Uh, what people say about you? Uh, what kind of a legacy do you leave? How are you regarded if you get into a history book? I really, none of that is what matters. You know, he was just predisposed to fighting for justice and against injustice. That's it. Of course, you're going to, no one eradicates injustice. Grant was a failure. The greatest people always fail. Successes for mediocrities, failures further mankind. Successes maintain dead things that eventually have to be incinerated and replaced by chaos. Grant was a forefather of modern America. The fact that what he fought and died for has still not been achieved is not his fault. Greatness is ahead of its time. Artists touch eternity and live in the future. They are benevolent monsters and ghosts, pursued by the fearful with torches and pitchforks. Mediocrity is smug, and greatness is humble. I'm liking this quite a bit. Grant wasn't perfect. The famous scandals did happen. Thomas isn't perfect either. No scandals, but many failings. But on the great matters of his day and ours, the Union, democracy, human rights, and race, he was right, strong, and committed. And I've been right on vocation over career, honesty instead of fraud, the importance of ethics, art over propaganda and sales, kindness over meanness. I've been right in my commitment to humanity when so many are trying to dismiss the human as a joke. Human beings are demeaned as profit centers to exploit and vulnerable competitors for resources to dominate. To clearly reject, resist, and fight against the forces of dehumanization is always a nonconformist way to live. All societies are evil because they are all inspired by fear and are primarily interested in maintaining the power of its established individuals and institutions. The hero stands for something that transcends society. His or her very assertion of that stance changes society forever. It is only natural for the hero to inspire passionate hate and love. Those who suffer adore the hero. Those who fear losing their security because of any expansion of the rights and nurturance of the potential of humanity vilify him. I think that's tremendous. I I am thrilled with the writing in this passage. And it was so good. I'm going to stop here. So I'll see you next time.